What's up? Another installment of Read Reviews. And as aforementioned, I am doing my blind review. I came across a brand that I do not know of, and it looks pretty good. Looks perfectly fine. Lucy Pet, never heard of it. But this is the bag. Now, as you can see, it's already open. So the policy of the store that I got this from is if the dog or cat will not eat the food, and then within 10 days they can bring it back. So that happens. I'm not going to say this is not a palatable food, meaning it's not tasty, but it happens sometimes. So it is promoting digestion and no ingredients from China, which is awesome, including vitamins and minerals, of course, no corn, wheat, or soy, no artificial preservatives, flavors, or colors added. So, as I put in one of my, as I mentioned in one of my previous videos about the Stella and Chewy's, this remains true with this food. So, the kibble is nice and consistent. And it is all pretty dark, which means got a decent amount of meat in there. Now, this is interesting. So this food is pretty hard to break apart. Yeah, I mean, it takes a decent amount of pressure to break that apart. And it's also a flat disc, so which means it should break apart even easier. Meaning if it was, it was like a small oval, it'd be hard to break apart because of the grip, but it's a flat oval and it's pretty hard to break apart, which means there's a lot of things keeping it sticky in there. So we'll get to that in a moment. But this bag, this company, I'm not sure. I have not done my due diligence, but president and founder, Joey, says that I love dogs, I love cats, and yada, yada, yada. So they're really throwing around prebiotic balanced fiber. So, and that's awesome. That's what we like to see. So they not only have probiotics on the food, they have prebiotics on the food. So probiotics is just a straight good bacteria that you inject in your dog's or cat's stomach. So the prebiotics is that things like quinoa and pumpkin and fiber that the good bacteria needs to munch on to grow and keep balancing the bad bacteria in the gut. When you have a lot of bad bacteria in the gut, then you're going to run into inflammation in the colon and the stomach lining, and you're going to have loose stool, and you're going to have a dog that has a lot of gurgly, and you're just going to have a dog or cat that is not feeling too great. So, without further ado, let's look at the guarantee analysis. This is where you're going to find your protein percentages, your fat percentages, your fiber, your moisture, things like that. So, the protein, 25% minimum protein, which is it's not bad. It's a middle of the road. I kind of like to see 25 or above, but it's serviceable, pretty good. Minimum. Usually when they say minimum, it's usually about 2 or 3% higher than that. So you can comfortably say it's about 27% protein, but it says 25, so we'll get it 25. The fat, 14% fat. Usually, ideally, I would like to have a 2 to 1 ratio of protein to fat. So in this case, the protein would have to be 28 for a 2 to 1 ratio. Excuse me. So the fat's a little high for my liking. I would like to see it around 12 or 13 or 12 or 11%. The fiber, which this brand is all about, is 6% fiber. So that's pretty high. Normally, dog food is about 3 or 4%. I've seen as high as 20%. But 6% fiber is pretty good. You're going to have a good healthy stomach for the pup. In this case, so we'll go into zinc and vitamin E and taurine. These are just marketing gimmicks. You're not going to see any vitamin E in here that's going to make a difference. Sometimes you'll see on the bag You'll see glucosamine chondroitin down here, and people that are in retail will advertise this as like, this is going to help your dog, the joints and mobility. You're not going to get a lot of utilization out of this. There's not enough glucosamine chondroitin that you can actually put into a kibble to make a noticeable difference. You're going to have an add-on. You're going to have salmon oil on top of it in a high concentration for your dog or cat to have a noticeable difference in their skin and coat or their joints. So really what we're looking at here is we're looking at moisture content, which is 10%. It's either going to be 9, 10, or 12%. So you're going to see, you're going to want to pay attention to that, the moisture, the fiber, the fat, and the protein. So all of those are pretty good percentages. I'm impressed so far. So the ingredients follow. Another key ingredient, no pun intended here, is the calories per serving, calories per cup. So this is very interesting. So the calories in this food per cup are 495 calories. That's a lot of calories per cup. Usually it's about 400. 390 to 410 is usually your average for a kibble. I've seen it as high as 670. I've seen it as low as 220. But 400 is kind of your baseline. So that's not necessarily a bad or a good thing. It's just there. 590 or 495 calories per cup is a lot. So this is where we're getting into where those calories are coming from. So the salmon, the ingredients, the ingredient follows salmon, great ingredient, chicken meal, great ingredient. And the chicken meal is just chicken, but with the water taken out. So it's just a more concentrated form of protein. So salmon, chicken meal, dried chickpeas. Do not confuse this with dehydrated. This means that technically they can say dried, but it just means that it's cooked. It's kind of like a Stella and Chewy's cooked oven baked kibble. And that's actually a good point. I'm not sure if this is an oven baked kibble. I don't think so. I think it's just an extruded kibble, meaning that it's, made just like 80% of other kibbles. They go through kind of this vessel, all the ingredients are pounded together, and it plops out a kibble at pretty high temperatures, usually about 300, 250 degrees. So you've got salmon, chicken meal, dried chickpeas, dried peas, pea starch. So you've got 2 meats, and then you've got 3 carbs. Actually 4 carbs. So going forward, you've got salmon, chicken meal, dried chickpeas, dried peas, pea starch, dried pumpkin, quinoa, carrots, so this is a cool ingredient, Miss Kenneth's grass, excuse my pronunciation, but that grass is where your prebiotics are. They sometimes you go out and you see dogs eat sweet grass or just traditional long grass if their stomachs are hurting. And this is essentially what this is. It's just some grass that they put in there with a high concentration of prebiotics. So that's a cool ingredient. Natural flavor, flaxseed, dried chicory root, another prebiotic, salt, and then dried kelp, and then your vitamins and minerals. So a lot to unpack there. Again, you've got 2 meats, and then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then after that, they're all carbs. So some of those carbs are prebiotics and probiotics, and they're going to help with your dog's stomach. But the 495 number that we alluded to before, let's see if I can find it, 495. I'm not sure if you can see that. Apologies if you can't. So what's the percentage of calories coming from carbs? What percentage is coming from proteins? What percentage is coming from fats? So to find that number, the carb number is not listed on here. You don't have protein, fat, and fiber. You don't have a carb percentage, and that's interesting. So to find that number out, you add the protein, you're going to add the fat, the fiber, and the moisture, and that is 16, 30, that is 55. So 45% of the calories. So 45% of the 495, almost half of it, almost half of those are coming from carbohydrates. So something to consider. I mean, albeit some of those carbohydrates are quinoa and pumpkin and good ingredients, but I would rather have those ingredients maybe, coming from meats and fats and things like that. So all in all, let's see if I'm missing anything here. A great food by all intents and purposes. It's probably, it looks like a top 10% dog food on the market. I've got pretty high standards, but it's pretty good food. Oh, another cool, interesting tidbit from my experience is that the omega-3 fatty acids is 0.3%. The omega-6 fatty acids are 2%. What does this mean? So omega-3 acids, fatty acids, is what you want. That's what you're looking for. You don't want any omega-6. Omega-6 is kind of like Cookout or McDonald's or hamburger grease or things like that, those kind of oils. Omega-3 fatty acids are things like salmon oil and just, pollock oil and things like that, fish oil. So how do you know what's enough and what's not enough in a dog food? Well, you ideally would want the omega-6 to be around 3 to 4 times higher than the omega-3. So in this case, it is almost 7 times higher than the omega-3. So that's not within that ratio. That's not a good percentage. You want the omega-3 acids within a 3 to 4 ratio, meaning in this case, instead of 0.3, it would have to be 0.6 or 0.7 to keep that ratio up. So, that's just that's splitting a pretty thin hair, but something to consider, something that does not go, something does not get talked about as much as it should be. But all in all, a great food. I recommend it. Some bad things about the food: a lot of carbs in the food. Not a great percentage, like I said, omega-3 to omega-6 acids. Let's see, high number of calories per feeding. That's another thing. And I'm not sure about the palatability of this food. It's not an oven-baked food, so it loses some palatability, I'm sure, going through a higher temperature in the process. But I would give it a solid 7.5 out of 10. It's good food. So this was fun. I don't know Lucy Pet. I'm going to have to do some more digging and research, and I'll follow up with you guys. But yeah, if you see this food, don't run from it. Give it a fair shot and see if your dog or cat likes it. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.